Hi there. Thank you for joining us for Hobbies, Crafts, and Collectibles this week. I'm your host, Duska Cornwell. Today, we'll be going from beekeeper to bookworm. First, Samantha Killough from Ashmore will be joining us. She's a certified apiarist. And then Bob Bertrand from Charleston will be sharing his books with us and showing us a little bit about how to restore them. Stay tuned. It's my pleasure to welcome Samantha Killough from Ashmore to the set today. Samantha, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Lovely young woman. She's just 15 and already a beekeeper. So we're going to find out a little bit about her hobby today. I love bees and I love honey. And this fascinates me. I know that there's, some of us, that's all we think of. Well, there's bees, they use flowers, they make honey, but there's so much involved. So much important, first of all, about bees, and so much involved in the process of actually keeping them. So let's start just by talking about bees a little bit. I've read that bees are really important to our environment, and why is that?
Well, bees, they pollinate all of our plants, and without them, we wouldn't have any vegetables, we wouldn't have any fruit, we wouldn't have anything. And people have been keeping bees since ancient Egyptian times. There's cave paintings and hieroglyphics depicting people collecting honey from.
Really?
Yeah, they used to keep hives in pots or woven baskets. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I've heard there are some authors that have written, if we lose our bees, then that's kind of the beginning of the end for our society.
It really is.
Yeah, we really do rely on them.
Yeah, there's been a disease lately that's the colonies have been collapsing. It's called CCD, colony collapse disease. And we really don't know what's causing it. There's been a couple of theories about it, like global warming, or people raise the queen bees. So they're thinking maybe the lack of the queen variation, the genetic variation, or the chemicals, the pesticides on our plants. So we really don't know what's causing it.
I see. And has that come through our area at all? Do you know?
Not too much, especially in urban areas it has. Hives will just die. I've had a couple of hives that have died, but that's mostly because of the winter has come through and they've starved.
I see.
But
yeah, I never thought about bees in the winter and how that works. How does that work?
Well, in our hives, sometimes if you live in a really cold spot, you can insulate your hive, which we're actually going to do this winter, because our first winter we had bees, my hive died, and it wasn't because they didn't have enough honey, because going into the winter, you have to keep 100 pounds of honey in the hive for them.
Oh.
So you have to go and actually physically lift up the whole hive and see, oh yeah, that feels like 100 pounds. But
wow, I didn't know you had to have brute strength to be a beekeeper.
Yeah, Dad does that part.
Okay, good to know.
But my hive, they didn't die because they didn't have enough honey. The first winter, it got kind of warmer, and then it just froze. And so the bees, they were on the comb, and they would be inches away from the honey, but they were being busy, and when it froze, they were frozen to their spot, but they couldn't get to their honey, so they starved to death.
Oh, I see. So this is the comb, okay?
Yes.
And what is that? Is that made out of wax? Or?
It is.
Okay.
See, we make the frames, and we also make the boxes. But before we put the bottom part on, we slide this sheet of wax in, which it provides a start for the bees, and the bees build up on this. And then they put their honey or their brood in there, and then once they're done, they cap it off with more wax.
Oh, awesome. So do you eat a lot of honey at your house?
We do.
It's because you said your dad has hives too. Now, how many do you both have then?
I think now we have around 12.
Okay. Do you have a goal?
Not really. No, we continue to grow, and we're going to start selling our honey at farmers market. We haven't harvested yet this summer, but we're going to in a little bit, so that's exciting.
That is very exciting. Now, when is the harvest time for honey? Is there a certain time during the year you do that?
It varies for all beekeepers and how busy their bees are. Sometimes, we always have a summer harvest for us, usually midsummer or late summer. And then sometimes if we just have an excess amount of honey, we harvest in the fall. But we found that the fall honey doesn't taste as good as the spring honey.
Really?
Yeah, because if you actually look in the frames and look at the honey, each honey has, through the seasons, they all have a different taste and a different color, and some of them have more pollen in them than others because, the different flowers they harvest from.
Well, I've heard that. Now, do you plant the flowers that you want to make that flavor of honey, or do you just go by what's naturally wild in Illinois?
Some people do. If they have huge businesses, they plant only, they have only clovers, and they have you can actually buy certain types of honey, this is orange blossom honey from Florida. But we just do wildflower. We have clovers all over the place. We have dandelions. We have a huge amount of goldenrod, which is the fall honey. But we found there's a lot of pollen in it.
I see.
And some people like the pollen, but some people don't, and it's darker.
I see. Now, I've heard that if you eat local honey, that it can help you with your allergies. Is that true?
I found it does work, and I actually have a teacher from my 8th grade year, and he had really bad allergies, and I gave him some honey, and he ate a teaspoon a day, and his allergies got better. So I found that it does work.
So the research has been shown to be true. I've heard there's some people say, yeah, some people say, I'm not sure that works, but I've heard from people that it does work. So that's really neat. Now I want to look at a couple of the tools of the trade here. I'm trying to picture you in your full ensemble, your bee outfit, but this is what you put over your head.
Yes.
And do you find that this works? I got to know, have you been stung while you're tending your bees?
I haven't been stung while I'm actually by my bees, because most of our bees are really incredibly docile. We do have a couple of mean hives in the back, but I try not to mess with them. But our first year, all of our hives, we had 3 hives, and all of them were very, very calm. I could just go out there without my gloves or without my suit or anything and pull out my combs, and they wouldn't bother me at all.
Maybe you're a bee whisperer.
But I've actually been stung twice. One of them, they're both my fault, really. The first time I was laying in bed, and I must have carried one on my clothes or something, and I rolled over in bed in the middle of the night and got stung. I was like, what?
Rude awakening there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I got stung by a bee. And then the second time was a few weeks ago, and I stepped on a bee while we were swimming because they congregate at the water source, and they're all, there's so many bees, you wouldn't believe it. There's just tons of them all on the beach, just flying around. I didn't have my glasses on, I couldn't see anything, and I just stepped on one.
Oh,
but
ow.
it actually didn't hurt that much because I got in the water immediately after, so
okay.
I didn't really notice it until later. I was like, oh.
Well, this is kind of speaks for itself. Now, what is this contraption?
That is a smoker. And, most people know what a smoker is because, they've seen the movies. And a lot of people think, it's to calm the bees down. And yes, that is true. And usually we don't use a smoker just because our bees are so docile. We take a spray bottle and we put sugar water in it. Oh. And then if we're about to harvest, and we spray it on their wings. And then the bees are so preoccupied trying to clean off the sugar water off each other's wings that they don't really notice us.
Interesting. Did you read about that technique somewhere, or was that something that you...
I think we learned about it at a bee meeting.
Oh, okay.
Which actually, I think we had one tonight. So
bee meeting, so is that it from the area? You have different beekeepers come?
Yeah, it's actually in Effingham, and it's called Crossroads Beekeepers. It's really cool.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Very cool. Now, you are getting into branching out a little bit, experimenting with your beekeeping by doing some making, not just honey, but candles. Now, this is a beeswax candle. Is it, has it been scented, or what's involved with a bee wax candle?
This is actually the first candle I made, and it's all beeswax. There's no other kind of wax that I bought in there. Okay. And you can see there's some dirt in there because this is my first time. I didn't really understand how much you needed to strain the wax in cheesecloth, so
I like that though. It looks like cinnamon on top of a cinnamon roll or something.
But this has a natural scent, so it smells kind of.
It smells honeyish to me.
Yeah.
That's why I thought maybe you added something to it, but that's just all natural. And I love the mold that you've used with the little bees on it on the hive. It's adorable. So this is something you're going to have. You said this is the first one. Have you made more? Are you going to venture into different kinds? Or
I've made some jar candles, like just in canning jars. This is, I think, the only actual mold candle I have. I've tried just little mold candles, but they're really hard to make. So, and I haven't really gotten into soap making yet, but I really want to. So I have a book on it. I just haven't really gotten to it yet.
Gotcha. Oh, I'd love that. Some honey soap.
Yeah.
Now you are 15. You've been doing this since you were 13. What got you into this to begin with?
Well, my dad has a friend who does beekeeping, and he actually gifted him a hive. So we started off with 3 hives, and my dad got insanely into it. And I was like, oh, I can do this for a 4-H project on beekeeping. So I did that, and I actually got champion at the county fair, and then I took it to state, and I got a superior there, which is the highest award you can get.
It is. Congratulations.
And I've been in 4-H 3 years. This is my 3rd year going into it. And my first year I did that with beekeeping, and then the second year I did entrepreneurship with the honey business and the candle business.
Wonderful. Well, are you thinking about venturing to the internet maybe a little bit? Or?
I have not thought about that. We're going to start at the farmer's market as soon as we harvest, so that would be really cool.
That will be cool. I'll have to look for you there.
I also sell at my dad's office. I set up there, and they've all people just swarm to it.
Yeah, I love that.
And all my friends' moms are like, "Oh, do you have honey yet?" I was like, "Almost." Oh, well, we want to buy some. And actually, in Sullivan, they have a little shop, and they sell artwork and candy and stuff. And we got to talking, and they're like, "Yes, you can sell that would be so cool if you sell your honey here."
That is awesome.
Now I have a little business up in Sullivan as soon as I harvest.
Well, and I've heard that some of them love, when they come to the area, different performers, when they travel like that, they like to eat the local honey because of allergies, because they're not used to the pollen and stuff in the air. And so that would probably be good for some of them to take advantage of as well. Well, very cool. Well, I have just so much enjoyed having you here. If there was somebody out there thinking, maybe bees, what would you say to some young person about taking it up as a project?
Well, definitely look. I have a catalog back here. We don't necessarily have a certain company that we buy from, but there's just subscribe to a bee magazine, subscribe to a catalog. They're really cool. Look on it online. Talk to your local U of I extension office. They could get you started, or they could get you a mentor. I know that I'm hooked up with the U of I extension office. So I have Girl Scout troops calling me, "Can we have a tour of the
that's
bees?"
awesome.
So it's really cool.
That's very cool. And you're encouraging young people to take responsibility for their environment and help by raising bees. It sounds like we could really use more of them right now. Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for being with us. It was a joy.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to welcome Bob Bertrand from Charleston to the studio today. Bob has taken his love for reading into collecting books and now restoring books, which I love. I love anytime you can take something old and keep it around for a little while. Bob, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Good to have you. Now you have taken your love for books, like I said, to a whole new level. Start us out a little bit, kind of telling us, is this something that you have kind of self-taught through the years of collecting books, or is this something that you've taken a class about, or how did you get into actually restoration of books?
Well, I met someone that did it at a garage sale and kind of connected with that person in Champaign, and we've been friends ever since, and so I kind of learned the trade through him. But most of it is learned through trial and error, and not necessarily out of a book or by observation, but by actually getting down and dirty and doing it. So
Now you have an extensive collection of books, and some of your books are probably medieval times. Is that safe to
Right.
say? So they've been through the ringer for a few years, and some are out of leather, some are out of cloth, and so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the differences of bindings and how to go about restoring them. Now here you've showed us, this is your typical find, maybe at a garage sale, which I love to do. You go to a sale, you find this book, or this is leather, right?
correct.
Okay.
Calf.
It's
Yeah.
a cab leather. And then this book, this is typical. I probably have a few of these at home, but just, can't bring yourself to throw them away. I know that's probably,
Right.
sacrilege in your eyes, but tell us a little bit about what you would do with a book like this.
Right. What's happened to this book is it's, dry rotted. So the leather over the course of time has dried out. It's not been stored in the proper environment. It's not been treated. And so it's just dry, cracked, brittle, and then broken apart. Now, ironically, when you say I have books from the Middle Ages, that's true. But another thing about that is that they made books a lot more sturdy than they did in the 19th century.
Sure.
So this
probably
is
with thicker leather.
vellum.
Oh,
They used,
okay. With
the paper was of higher quality, and then as books started getting mass produced, the quality of the bindings went down. So you might go to a garage sale and find a book like this and think it's kind of neat, but it's ultimately hopeless to get this put back in a condition that you might be happy to put it back on your shelf. But all this can be restored. One of the fortunate things about this particular book here is that the label, albeit broken apart,
oh yeah, it's all there, isn't
is
it?
still there.
So we have.
So that can be extracted from that leather. It takes quite a while to get that off so it doesn't break. And then I can use that to put back on a spine that I put on this book.
I see.
Okay? So that's a good thing. Normally that doesn't occur. Once the spine goes, it's trashed and you don't have the original label.
I see.
So there are a number of things that you can do to bring this book back to life. If it's a book such as this that doesn't have much of a value to it, all I did was take some cloth, stamp it with my, make a title there, run some gilt along the top edge, and then paste that over the top, and then solidify it on the inside, so that it's a strong copy.
I see.
Yeah, it doesn't look all that great like that, but that's kind of a quick repair to get something in a functional sort of condition, so that someone can actually use the book if they plan on doing it, and that'll last a while. Cloth actually lasts longer than leather, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have not thought that. Is it because of the drying out and getting?
And that is why this next book is, if you can see along the hinges here, that's cloth along inside the hinges.
Oh, I see.
So what I've done is just kind of tuck it underneath, tuck it behind, reattach the spine, but the cloth will last a lot longer than the leather. If I had to restore this with leather, it would be such a thin leather that it probably wouldn't last over time.
I see.
And so that's going to be longer lasting. It blends in quite nicely, as you can see.
It does.
Along
I wouldn't
with
have
the
known
original
that was
leather. Yeah.
cloth underneath
and that's going
there.
to be.
That's beautiful.
And then I polish it up with shoe polish that sort of matches, and paste wax.
Oh, okay.
And that'll
That's
preserve it. You can get some water damage to it, and it won't be too bad. So
Might repel it a little bit, huh?
it'll repel the water.
Okay, very nice. And then now we have a couple other examples of books that you have bound over here. These are further along in the process. Now, how is this different?
This was a book that just had no hope at all. Okay, there were maybe the boards. You might have to make a decision on a book like this whether you even want to try to preserve these boards. I think that they can be preserved if you want, but otherwise you can just kind of put a whole new binding. And this is actually a simulated leather that's
see.
used on that book with some stamping on the
Okay, so
spine.
you've actually replaced the entire outside of the book,
Right,
including
and
the words.
yeah.
I see.
And then you try to use material that matches as close as possible to the period in which that book was bound, if that's possible. And I have a whole archive of old materials that I use.
see. This is gorgeous. Tell me about this one.
Okay. This one, the spine, obviously something like this couldn't be restored, so this is a new leather that matches as close as possible, you know, considering the fact that this is leather that was manufactured in 2000 something and this was made in 1850. And then new labels have been put on that. There's a machine that I have to be able to stamp the labels, and so that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
The end papers, these are end pages, just to kind of give you an overview of the book. Front paste down, fly leaf or end paper, and then there's the inner hinge, and so that helps solidify it from the inside as well and makes it more usable.
Absolutely. Really restoring it to its original layout. That's
Right.
awesome. Well, now I want you to show me the different materials before we run out of time. What are some of the things that you use to bind books
Okay.
with?
I can use leather. Thin leather like this can also be used for hinges.
Oh, yeah.
It's really easy to work with thin leather.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's
Sometimes, and I've tried to do this in the past, leather like this is fresh. It's a little bit thicker and harder to work with, but it can be pruned so that it's thinned out to the thickness that you want.
Oh,
and
I
then this
see.
leather would be stained to try to match.
That's what I was going to ask.
You try to match up. You can either use shoe polishes to stain it, or there's actual stains that I have, various different colors. And so if somebody wanted a book that they had in a certain color and I didn't have that color, I could use that and just stain it to that color. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And then we have some cloths. What is the vellum looking?
Oh, this stuff?
Yeah.
Now this stuff is really important. You know, it doesn't look all that significant, but this is Japanese paper. It's real thin,
Yeah,
and if
you
you
can see your
want,
hands.
if you wanted to tear that at this point, it'd probably be easy to do. But once I saturate that and put some glue on it, and it dries along a hinge or something, it would be nearly invisible and just as strong as, almost as strong as the cloth.
Really?
So sometimes I need to use that to make subtle repairs that can't be seen that are still strong. It's difficult to work with because it bunches up on you, but
Gotcha.
it takes a while. But once you get the hang of it, this is your best friend in bookbinding.
Okay.
So I'll tell you that right now.
Nice.
I
And
don't
so-
have a whole lot of friends, but you know, paper.
That's not true. I'm your friend, Bob. And so here's a simulated leather.
Right, that's simulated, and that's real nice to work with because it's very thin, as you can see.
Now,
So
would
this
that
is
be-
easy to take a razor blade. So for example, if I wanted to put that on this book, I'm going to take my razor blade, cut underneath that, and that's going to slide underneath real easy and be very
Sure.
pliable to get into that gutter and stuff. It's real nice. So
And I love the leather books myself, and you have some beautiful examples of some leather and some neat old paper. So I want to get to these because
Right.
this is going to be the last thing we're able to do. But this one is so, I wish you could feel it. I wish we had feel-o-vision. But this is super soft. Is this a lamb's?
like a sheepskin.
Sheepskin. Beautiful. And the one underneath it, you were telling me that this is one that, you know, if you were going to use it every day, this is a Bible, and this is
Yeah.
something that you like to read and study. Well,
Right.
you not only have bound the Bible in a really thick, durable leather, but you've actually put other,
Right. I've put other books inside there.
yeah, which
kinda
is a
that
great, I
would
never
use,
thought
so
about
I
that.
sewed those in there. Now this was done about 10 years ago, so you can see how it's held up. They used to have a label on the spine, that since has come off, but this thing will go through a
I
war.
love this.
So
Yeah.
it's real thick, and it's not that attractive, but it's
Oh, I
very
think it's
functional
beautiful.
and sturdy.
Yeah,
So,
and I never thought about that. If you had 3 volumes of a particular author, you could actually take them to someone like you and say, "Hey, bind me all these 3 together," or whatever you
Right.
know you would have.
Yeah.
And this last one here is
Now, another thing that I said is that I like to use period material, right? Material that would be as old as the book itself.
Sure.
But sometimes you can't do that. You can't find that material. So what I've done here is I've taken some paper and I've aged it with tea or coffee, I can't remember. I use all the coffee grounds, soak this in there, and then let it dry in the sun. Keep doing that until I get the color that I want.
That looks original. Look at that.
So it's pretty close to, you know.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, you do beautiful work, Bob,
Well,
and I
thanks.
really appreciate you bringing all your examples in and showing us. Wish we had more time, but I'm just going to have to say thank you so much for coming in.
All right.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
All right. Well, thanks for sticking around for today's show and seeing what all the buzz is about. If you know someone who's been as busy as a bee on their hobby, craft, or collectible, be sure and contact us. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.